and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a body language analysis of the royal family from Prince Philip's funeral. Now today has been an extremely sad day here in England as the Queen's husband Prince Philip was laid to rest and it was his funeral. Now that's what I'm basing the body language analysis today from. I have done a separate video that hopefully you've all seen on Prince William and Harry's body language, but today I'm focusing on the other members of the royal family. So first of all I want to say is that I'm not going to do too much on the Queen. You didn't see much of the Queen in the television footage today. She arrived on her own to the funeral. She left on her own, or with a lady in waiting, sorry, in her car from the funeral, and other than a few short sort of glimpses of her in the church, you don't actually see her very much. I will say though that she looked visibly upset. That's obvious. She'd been married to her husband for over 70 years. Of course she's going to be visibly upset on the day of his funeral. She did look very sad to be walking into the church by herself, and just before the funeral starts she sort of looks back out of the church for reassurance to the other family members, and you can clearly tell that she didn't want to walk into the church on her own. Now, I found it extremely upsetting that the Queen had to sit on her own in the church because of COVID restrictions here in England at the moment. They were only allowed to have 30 mourners at the church. There should have actually been 800 people. Normally there would have been kings and queens and people from other countries, other royal families, other high people in societies, presidents, people like that, prime ministers. So it was a very much thinned out funeral procession and service because of COVID. Now, obviously, the main members of the royal family were there, all of Prince Philip's children, all of his grandchildren, and other people, sort of cousins of Prince William and Prince Harry. But other than very close family members, there weren't anybody else at the funeral. There were only 30 of them. So other than the clear upset of the Queen and how sad it was that she had to sit by herself, the thing I found most difficult to watch out of the entire day was the sadness etched across Prince Charles's face. He was the most visibly distraught out of everyone in the family. He had a red face, he had red eyes, he was crying at parts during the procession following the coffin into the church. He was crying within the church during the service, and out of everyone there, even the Queen, he was visibly the most upset. Now, he was obviously very close to his dad. The Queen has had longer being in the royal family than Prince Charles. She knows how not to show emotion. I'm not saying she didn't, because you did see a tear visibly roll down her cheek in the church, but the Queen is a lot more stoic than Charles and normally holds in her emotions. Something I will say about Charles is that Charles also normally holds in his emotions, but on this occasion he doesn't appear to. It is a struggle for him. He's visibly upset every time you see him on the camera, and every time you do see him on the camera it looks as though he's trying his hardest not to cry, which is really sad to see. In a way, I wish he'd felt able to just let all his emotions out. Now, Charles' wife Camilla, you don't see as much because she's not walking with the other members of the royal family following the coffin, but when you do see Camilla, she's extremely upset. She comforts Charles at the points where you see that she is stood and sat with Charles, and she tries to sort of give him some reassurance and some comfort and support on the day of his father's funeral. So the main members of the family that most people are aware of that you see on the TV footage today are Charles, his brothers, his sister, and his children, William and Harry. So all of Prince Philip's children were walking behind the coffin. So that's Andrew, Edward, Anne, and Charles. And obviously William and Harry. They're the most sort of famous members of the royal family that were walking behind. Something I will say, and I don't mean any harm by it, is that Andrew did look upset, Prince Andrew, but he looked a bit indifferent. He was nowhere near visibly as upset as Prince Charles. Not that it's a competition, and I know everybody grieves differently, but in my opinion, Prince Charles was obviously a lot closer to his dad, Prince Philip, than I feel Andrew was. Now, Prince Edward looked visibly upset as well, but it was clear as light as day to anyone that watched this funeral that Prince Charles was absolutely gutted, absolutely distraught, and I feel it's going to take him a very long time to get over the death of his father. So it was quite hard to judge all of their body language because you don't see them for very long, but they all look very tense. Prince Charles looked very tense. At times he was biting his lip. I noticed that he was trying not to sort of look left and right and trying to keep his eyes on his father's coffin, which he did successfully do most of the time, but he obviously found it extremely hard to hold in his emotions. So moving on to Prince Andrew, as I said, I feel that he was a bit indifferent. He didn't look visibly that upset. He did look a bit upset, but not a lot in my opinion. But perhaps he's better at holding it in or not showing it than Charles was on the day. I feel he looked very uncomfortable and very stressed and tense, but in a different way to Harry and William. They're obviously stressed and tense because it's the day of their granddad's funeral, but they've obviously got a family rift. They've got a rift as brothers. That made them more tense. Whereas Andrew has got a problem because of the Jeffrey Epstein thing that everyone's aware of, and that his reputation's been ruined and that he's a black sheep within the family. And as he was walking along, I think what I've got it is now, he looked ashamed. That was the emotion that I got from Andrew. Shame and embarrassment as he walked along, probably thinking that people were judging him because of what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, because Princess Anne had quite a large hat on, it was quite hard to read her body language. Once the mask was on with the hat, there was no chance at all of reading any body language because you could barely see her eyes. So there wasn't a lot that you could read other than that she was extremely upset, extremely somber, and along with everybody else, quite tense. But out of everyone that was there that was following, I felt she was less stressed and tense because obviously she's not got the rift like the brothers, she's not got like the embarrassment like Prince Andrew. She just had pure upset because it was the day of her father's funeral. One thing I did notice about Princess Anne before going into the church and before the mask was on is as her dad's coffin was lifted up and was about to be walked into the church, she visibly gulped, very stressed and very upset at what she was witnessing and knowing it was the day of her dad's funeral. So, and moving on to Kate. The first time you see Kate is stood alone outside the church. It was really sad to see her standing by herself. She wasn't part of the procession following the coffin into the church, so she was stood alone. She looked very somber, and it did look as though she was holding back the tears, and I think I may have actually noticed a tear falling at that point, which was really sad to see. As I said, I do believe Kate was crying before the service, and I also noticed afterwards she was visibly upset, stood outside, and that she used a tissue, which I believe was to wipe away tears. I also noticed that her face was constantly sad and somber, but I didn't notice constant crying, but I do believe there were 2 occasions when she did cry. And as I've said, it was quite hard to read the body language today because of the face masks and because you didn't see them throughout the service, because we were focusing on the choir and the poems and sort of things out of the Bible that were being read. But one thing I did notice is that as Prince Philip's coffin was being brought in and she was stood by herself, because at this point her husband Prince William hadn't joined her, she visibly swayed from side to side. It was a very quick thing. Sorry, there wasn't any hands involved, but it was a very quick sway to side, and I think it was a self-soothing mechanism just to make herself feel a bit less stressed. Having to stand there all by herself can't have been very nice. And not only that, the funeral was about to begin, she was seeing the coffin for the first time, and there may have been a small amount of that anxiety because she'd just seen Harry for the first time since the Oprah interview. Beatrice and Eugenie, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, who are Prince Andrew's daughters, were also at the funeral, and they are the cousins of Prince William and Prince Harry. They both look visibly upset. I noticed they were both holding back the tears before, during, and after the service. They didn't look stressed and tense, I didn't feel. They're not part of any of this rift within the family, but they did look very upset and tense, not tense, but I don't know what the right word is that I'm looking for, really. Somber, I guess. They were upset and somber. They didn't look stressed. Obviously, everything that's happened with their dad, with the Epstein thing, can't be very nice, but that's not really much to do with them or what had gone on today. It was a funeral, so I'm hoping that wasn't playing on their minds, but they did show emotion. For us Brits, it's been a real interesting day from a body language perspective, even though it's been a very sad and somber day to watch someone's funeral. It was really interesting to see the royals show emotion, because let's face it, most of them don't show emotion. Harry has been completely different to anyone, most of the royals, because he does show emotion, and I think that's why he's got such a big fan base and so many people love him and find him endearing, because he is such a lovely guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, whereas William has been trained to know that he's going to be our future king and that he shouldn't really show emotion if he can avoid doing it. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, the latest body language analysis that I've done. I'll be doing more of these videos soon, along with statement analysis, often of true crime cases. So I hope you enjoy all the content that I'm doing. I'm really enjoying making it. To all my subscribers, thank you so much for all of your support and for your comments. Please keep commenting down below, because I love reading all of your comments and your thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate your support. And as always, if you know anyone that likes true crime and body language and statement analysis, point them in the direction of my channel. Anyway, guys, I will be back very soon, most likely with another true crime and a body language analysis video. For now, take care of yourselves, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.